Hey everybody, welcome back to another News with Jace. I'm so glad you're here. And we have 10 things to check out. Let's get into it. First up, if you weren't aware, Rising Star nominations are open. I didn't realize this. It happens twice a year. Until July 31st, you can nominate somebody who's made some content or done something that you found amazing. Reasons you should do this is so that they can get some credit for that stuff and work on their way to, to be an MVP. It reads like it's now a stepping stone to the MVP program, and there's some real benefits. There's Meetups app, and I think it's monthly or quarterly for these folks, so they can talk to and collaborate better with each other. You don't need to be part of this program to make content, but it does definitely help to have people who are doing like things. So go on out there and nominate somebody that you think deserves it. Second up, we got the Devies Recap by Chuck Tomasi, where they talk about some of the different projects that were submitted for the Devies at Knowledge 23. It doesn't go into as much detail as I want on all of the projects, but if you weren't able to make the Knowledge event in May, this is the next best thing. And I have to call out the folks that won the award. The app of the year is called Ask Register, made by the fine folks at University of Toronto. Cesar M., Lovedeep G., Early Fan, Nia McCash, and Golharmi Hernikes. Sorry if I butchered any of those names. I tried really hard not to. There was a second award given for a citizen development for the year for the University of Gorona Kilitat, built by Santa Katz. In any case, sometimes we need inspiration to build different things, and this recap talks about applications that have real impact, save real dollars for these companies, and solve real problems. If you want to see some of that stuff, please go read this post by Chuck or the linked post on the official ServiceNow blog. Vancouver is coming up. Believe it or not, we're already here. The Vancouver release is coming up, and the video talking about it is on August 3rd. And if you want to see it live and ask questions as they present it, register soon to be added to that list and invite list for the Tech Now episode. It looks like the types of topics that are going to be the highlights for it, from what I can tell, is going to be the new AI framework stuff, some next experience theming, some UI builder innovations, and some virtual agent / sidebar improvements, otherwise known as omni-channel improvements. That all being said, I hope there's more to the release than just those 4 things. And those 4 things are big, but some customers just aren't using those, or all of them. SaaS with ServiceNow has released a video about database queries, best practices, and things to remember, where he recommends using add encoded query instead of add query or add or condition. I agree with that sentiment. I'm all about using the encoded query. Sometimes I just use add query and put the encoded query in there, but it makes life a lot easier to not have to think about which one to use. When counting results, glide aggregate is the king. Additionally, avoid complex queries on large data sets and come up with better ways to get the data out to improve perceived performance on looking up nested, deeply linked things. And then limit the records you return with a set limit. It makes a really big difference, or at least it can. So if you're expecting 10 records or 50 records or 7 records, if you set that limit, it really reduces the time that it can take for that result to come back. Great video. Love the content. Mike posted about instance-specific configurations. And this is something that I never really thought a whole lot about until probably 4 or 5 years ago. And I have opinions. So if you're not aware, sometimes you'll have a setting you want in production for some system property, but in a sub-production, you might want that setting to be different. First thing comes to my mind is having instance-specific endpoints for testing stuff. So if you were connecting to a news source to pull news from, like news.js.pro in production, maybe you want to point that to a sub-production when you're doing that from dev. One way to do that Mike writes about is storing the stuff as a JSON body and using some helper script to read that stuff out. Another way to do this, which I think it's better in my opinion, but it's an opinion, people have them, is to just put the instance name in the property. So if you wanted to connect to dev, you do news.endpoint.jsdev. And if you want the reintroduction, news.endpoint.jsprod. If my instance was jsprod ServiceNow.com. I like the name way of doing it because it's very clear in the code then exactly what you're doing. You don't need a utility function to get to it. But let me know what you think. Is there a better way to make instance-specific configurations? I don't know. I haven't really asked anybody, so I'm asking you if you're watching this and you do this kind of work. Put a comment below. Let me know. Or share it with friends and see what they got to say. Corey Wesley and Callie Alexander had a great discussion on LinkedIn a couple days ago, or about a week ago. So if you love air horns and you want to be informed about like what's up with Corey and Callie, I would check into it. They go all the way in from the new beat on the CJ and the Duke podcast to CJ's entry into politics and how the Duke convinced him to join him in independent consulting. It's a great listen. And if you want to know more about Corey and Callie, please go check it out. I was surprised to see that The Horse's Mouth, Joseph Lawton. I don't know what The Horse's Mouth was until I saw this post on LinkedIn, but I watched it and every time I see Joe in any of these things, I'm always amazed at his experience in life and how he got where he is. And it's fantastic. And he handles himself in such a way that is inspiring. So thank you, Joe. And if you want to know more about Joe, go check out that video and then check out Joe on LinkedIn and reach out to him. Robert Fedoruk was featured on Breakpoint with Lauren and Chuck Tomasi, where he talked about creating content and making content the best that he can for folks and how to stay inspired on making that content and be motivated and managing the time and those ideas. And as somebody else who makes content, I find content about making content really helpful. But sometimes making the content is just another way to remember what you've learned. Because if you learn whatever it is you're learning and then you write it down, the act of writing it down makes you remember it better. It makes you have to think about it in a different way, and it cements it more in at least my brain. So I think this kind of content is useful, even if you're only making content for yourself to better remember what it was you learned. There was one comment made in the video that I want to bring up, and Robert, if you watch this or somebody else watches this and it comes up in conversation, I would love to see a high production value LinkedIn Live like Callie does that you run. You had said in this video that you would like to do that at some point in time. I'd love to see it. If you make that happen, I'm sure you'll share it ahead of time so you get the right number of eyes on it. But I can't wait to see it happen. Aldis is a podcast that features a whole bunch of ServiceNow individuals, and they recently had a interview with Tim Woodruff on what he's doing at 10 a.m. and the work he did with the ServiceNow handbook and how that came to be and when the next version's coming out, if the next version's coming out, and what he thinks is happening to the ServiceNow platform. If those topics sound interesting, definitely check out the podcast. It's on YouTube. It's also on podcasts, so you can check it out wherever you need to. I have a link on news.js.pro for all of these stories, including this one. And if you like this video, please feel free to press that like button or make a comment below or share it with a friend, whatever you want to do. Last up, we got Justin Meadows. He's constantly making these videos. And one of his videos I caught my eye recently was this My Sheets application that he demoed on his channel that's made by the ServiceNow Innovation Lab. It looks like it's another way to build forms and lists in, I think it's a service portal, or maybe it's a UI experience thing. And that's all great. But one of the things he said in the video was to get this on an instance, he had to ask for it from support to get access to it to be entitled. And I just have to say, that whole entitlement way of getting that access to these things like this that ServiceNow themselves are making doesn't do ServiceNow any favors. It can be really difficult to get that kind of access. And if you want folks to check out these Innovation Lab apps, make that stuff more open. Make that stuff more available. There's no reason to hide that behind a request to support, especially if these apps are, in fact, going to try to generate more revenue by building more tables that you charge customers for. That all being said, it looks really nice. I don't know where it's going to go, There's other apps that I think are in the same vein by the same group, like the My Forms app, but I'm not sure if that's as difficult to put on. But I love the content you're making, Justin, and everybody else. These are the things that mattered to me this week. I'm going to put a link in the description below so folks can set up a call with me. If you guys want to talk to me about something in the ServiceNow space, I'm all about it. I've got some ideas for some apps and things I want to run by some folks, specifically on licensing and other things in ServiceNow. Please schedule a 15-minute, a 30-minute talk, and I would love to talk about some of that stuff.